How's it going, guys? Matt here with Merly Gaming. I want to talk about the Warlock, the changes, the 80-2 changes we just had. Let's go over them real quick. Before we get started, I want to say at 1,000 subs, I'm going to open up a Discord server. I've got a private one ready to go. So help me hit 1,000 subs by subscribing. Get that Discord server up. We'll start doing a little bit of community stuff here and there, more announcements in there, etc. So yeah, do the thing. All right, let's look at this. Not too worried about the bug fixes. Great. I guess we'll review a few other things too. Fighter weapon mastery from -5 to -10. Good. It's kind of been a problem for a long time. I don't mind. Rogues now have double jump without the movement speed penalty. This is a crazy buff. We're gonna see a lot of really obnoxious rogues, and we're gonna take that into account. Wizard ignite duration buff. Cleric some duration buffs, especially on the blast going up to 30 seconds. Smite hitting harder. Big buff to clerics. Big buff to rogues. Big nerf to fighters. Just the weapon mastery. Big buff to bards. Harmonic shield super low tier now, so you don't need much memory. Alright, but Warlock. Let's talk about Warlock. Below corruption got a big buff from 75% on the attribute bonus ratio, so below corruption is going to hit harder. Darkness shards can stack higher, so another +1 all. You can get up to +3 all now with dark shards, and you're going to get a bit more damage, up to 99% bonus on that next dark magical damage. So that's pretty cool. Although I will say you typically don't want to use these shards unless you really have to, but we'll get more into that, and then we'll talk about that. Demon form, nobody cares, I don't think. Demon form, I think, is only viable when you're like just geared to the teeth. Otherwise, you're just gonna die because you're draining yourself and your big giant thing that's easy to hit. I don't like demon form. I don't think it's ever been particularly good. It's very niche, and it's good in its niche areas maybe, but in general, I think it's kind of a hacky thing. So I don't care about demon form. Hydra is no longer resistant to life drain, basically. So you can life drain off it better than you could in the last patch, which is probably good. A lot of people were complaining about that. I honestly didn't mind it. I thought High Drain was a little too strong to begin with, but it's back to being strong. So, alright, cool. And weak against Divine. Whatever. Who cares? Who's going to be casting Divine against Hydra? If you are, you're kind of wasting your spell, and they're just going to drop another Hydra. You probably don't want to kill Hydras in general. Just let them wear out. If you are killing them, only do it if it's free. Just throwing that out there. Sorcerer Time Distortion is buffed again back to 100% casting speed. Let's look at building, statting up Warlock. Let's look at some great ways to play it. I love Warlock. It's my original main. Season 1, I mained Warlock. Not Season 1, my Season 1, I guess. When I started playing, I started with Warlock. As you can go look at my very first Dark and Darker video, and I'm derping around with the Warlock and basically not understanding how to play because it was my first time playing. But needless to say, obviously I got addicted to the game. Alright, first I want to talk about the perks. I think, Dark Reflection's back, kind of. It's going to hit really hard when you have 3 shards. And this is really good right now because rogues are going to be all over the place. And you know what they like to do. They like to stab you. So hitting them back for 20, 30 damage with a big Dark Reflection, especially if you have 3 shards. I think it's kind of fine to consume your shards on a Dark Reflection against a player because it's going to hit like a truck, and that's what you want to do. But the downside is, obviously, if a mob hits you, it's going to also absorb your shards. So a little bit of a downside there, but in my estimation, whatever, you shouldn't be getting hit by mobs. Now, obviously, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. It is going to happen. You're going to get hit by mobs, and it's going to absorb your soul collectors, but you can just stack them back up pretty quickly. They're not a big deal. I've been really liking the melee lock. I do not like torture mastery. I don't think I'm ever going to. Every time I try it, I just can't. It's just, even if it feels good at times, it's such a cringy play style, and it's just my opinion. But I've never really liked torture mastery. I tried it when I first started Warlock, and I just can't. This just doesn't fit my play style. I really like melee. Always have, probably always will. So I like to run Shadow Touch. This is optional. I think you can go Vampirism instead, especially if you plan on doing the High Drain stuff a lot. And Vampirism might be technically better in a lot of ways. But the 2 true on hit is great. So I think you could swap these either way. I personally have been running Shadow Touch lately. Anti-magic obviously is just great. It's kind of makes you counter wizards and sorcerers, which you need because they can be a problem when you're building melee. Curse Mastery, I think, is great if you're doing Torture Mastery because you get more ticks of healing, which you kind of need at a lot of times. Dark Enhancement, I think, is overall not great. The only time I think I would use this is if I'm literally building to hit for my Dark Reflection to hit as hard as possible every time, but it's not really better than the other perks. And I think if you're considering Dark Enhancement, you would get Malice instead because it kind of gives you a little magic bonus and buff duration. You know, it gives you everything Will gives, including a little bit of this dark magic bonus. So I think Malice is just kind of directly better than Dark Enhancement. But if you wanted to go full Dark Reflection build, you could go like this. Build a bunch of True, build a bunch of Will in your Dark Reflection. You might be able to get it to hit for like 40 or something, which would be funny. So I think that's the only niche place where Dark Reflection, or not Dark Reflection, Dark Enhancement works. Demon Armor I think is great. Spellcasting speed doesn't really matter a whole lot when you're melee lock. I don't think it hardly matters at all. So the lose 10% casting speed is not even a downside really, in my opinion. Plate Armor is great. There's a lot of really good plate pieces for the melee lock. So this is usually something like my default. I don't always do Dark Reflection now. But I think Dark Reflection is better now that the rogues are going to be such a menace. Rogues really don't like that Dark Reflection. It does tend to hit them pretty hard. They usually have low magic resist, and I think it's pretty good for helping counter rogues. I think you got to go below Corruption. Blood Pact, which is the demon form, I already talked about it. I think it's just not good. I've never had a good experience with it. Every time I try it, I feel like I'm just basically deciding I want to go back to lobby. Like, it's just never felt good to me. Dark Offering, obviously Troll. You can use it maybe if you're really high gear and have a really specific plan, but it's just very tedious to try to keep this going. It's never felt great in my opinion. Spell Memory too, yeah, maybe. There could be an option here with all their cheap spells. There's some good utility in the Warlock spells, so if you really don't like any of the stuff, Spell Memory 2 is actually not a bad choice, I think. And Phantomize, it just doesn't fit my playstyle. I get that it's good and it saves your life sometimes, and it comes in clutch for sure. If you like Phantomize, I think you should take it. And technically, it might be better than Below Corruption as far as surviving and saving your life in the dungeon and getting out alive. It technically might be better, but I prefer the Below Corruption, and since it just got buffed, why not? Why not? Let's talk about spells real quick. This is kind of my default wheel when I'm going melee lock. I like Bolt of Darkness. I know it takes your shards, but the thing is, Warlock has no other options for that long range. No other options. This is the only option. Well, I guess you could technically say Hellfire, but it's so slow that it's unreliable against players, and it's really for PvE only, or to get someone hiding in a corner maybe or something, but not good enough. But I guess if you really don't want to consume your shards and you still want that unlimited range option, you could go Hellfire. I think that is fine in a way. Let me reset the memory order here. But yeah, I think you got to go Bolt of Darkness just for that option. But yes, not strongly opposed to taking Hellfire over it if you want a non-dark magic spell or shard consuming option for that unlimited range. Curse of Pain, I think, is just a must-have. Landing this on somebody as they're closing the gap is very nice, or as they're trying to get away, or on a rogue. Curse of Pain's just good, or on a wizard. It feels bad to the other player to get hit by this, and it makes them panic, I think, a little bit, especially if they fear they're going to get hit more. So Curse of Pain is just so strong that I think it's just an always must-take. I don't really think you have the option to not take this on your spell wheel. Hydra's only okay. A lot of people rant and rave about how good it is, and I think it's only okay. I think it's got its merits, but its problem is it takes 12 health, and unless you're really geared, 12 health is kind of a lot. And sometimes Hydra doesn't help at all. Sometimes Hydra ends up shooting you, and you could say that's a skill issue, sure, but even so, fights get chaotic. I've killed teammates with Hydra accidentally. I've killed myself with Hydra accidentally before. And I think it happens even to good players, but there are also times when it comes in clutch. So Hydra's, it's meh. I wouldn't be opposed to not taking it, but it is really good. I think you have to really consider your other options if you don't have it. It's great for spotting rogues, but it's not as good as you think because it shoots so slow and they can just sidestep the fireballs a little bit. It's not that big of a deal to rogues unless you're really like rooting them out and can keep good distance, but oftentimes they just sneak around it and come up on you anyway, and it doesn't end up doing a whole lot against rogues other than kind of letting you know they're there. But Hydra's not bad. I think you got to get life drain along with it, unless you're torture mastery, and then you of course take power sack instead, because you can curse of pain and power sack your Hydra to heal off it. I like life drain because yeah, it's high drain, classic combo. You drop the Hydra, you drain off of it. It's kind of like campfiring. You need to be in a place where you can chill for a second to do it, but it is pretty strong again, and it does heal you a lot. It still works out pretty well. I really like Bloodstained Blade. It's a personal preference. The 5 weapon damage is huge when you have a lot of strength and good scalers. 5 weapon damage is going to scale with your strength or physical power. So if you're going melee lock, Bloodstained Blade makes you hit like a truck, and it is very nice. But it is a bit situational, and that whole pre-buff thing. I don't like pre-buffing before every fight. It kind of bugs me. It's not my play. It doesn't fit my play style. It's probably one of the main reasons I don't play much cleric. I always feel like I have to buff before every fight. Same with bard. I have a hard time getting into that play style. It's undeniable that 5 weapon damage is a lot of weapon damage in this game. It basically is like ranking up your weapon 2 to 3 tiers higher. So if you've got an epic, it now feels like a unique, for example. Or if you've got a common, it now feels like an epic. In theory, you can kind of think of it that way. So it is pretty good. It is pretty good. So if you know you're going to land some hits, or about to really dish it out, especially against a barbarian or something, if you can land like a halberd headshot with this going on a barbarian, it often really collapses them, especially if you have blow corruption going. Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Curse of Weakness. Curse of Weakness is super, super good. I wish I could take it, but it just doesn't really beat these other ones in my opinion. You could take it over Bloodstained Blade for sure. That's no big deal. And if you don't like the blade, Bloodstained Blade, then why not? Curse of Weakness is great. Spell Predation, while it's really good, it's too situational. Every time I take this, I feel like I don't even end up using it a single time. So it's just like that rare instance when you finally see a bard or you finally see a cleric. Sometimes it's like, okay, now I need Spell Predation, but like I think that if you don't take Soul Collector, I do believe that you should be taking Spell Predation because it's a way to get shards. If you already have the Soul Collector, you don't necessarily need the Spell Predation, I think. And obviously, it's just really good against bards, really good against clerics, but not really great against any other class. I guess it's good against druids too. You could say it's good against druids. So it might be worth taking. But the thing is with druids, a lot of times, depending on how they're playing, if they're trying to jump on you as a panther, you don't have time to spell predate them if they're jumping on you as panther or bear usually. So it's really situational, more situational than you would think, but still good. It's still good. It's undeniably good, and you could take it over Bloodstained Blade too. So I do think it's the blade, the predation, the curse of weakness. I wouldn't do sack unless you have a specific plan with it, like healing off of it, or power of sacking your cleric, which is a pretty common tactic in trios, because they have that perseverance thing that reduces the tick of 3 damage to only 1, and they don't even notice. It's just 15 strength, 15 vigor, which they love, and your healing. Ray of Darkness. I've never had a good experience with Ray of Darkness, the meme beam. It's funny. It's okay. It's good for rooting out hiding rogues and stuff, because you just kind of spam it around and reveal invisible targets. But you got Hydra for that anyway. I'm not a huge fan of the Ray of Darkness, although it has its uses. Hellfire it being so slow moving has always been kind of a turn off for me, and if you're playing with teammates, if your teammates aren't super aware of your Hellfire, they can walk into it and get collapsed at times, and it feels bad. And there were some nerfs to some of the bosses, or buffs to the bosses, I could say, nerfs to Hellfire. Like Troll now has fire resistance, I believe, so doesn't do a whole lot of damage to Troll anymore. But Hellfire is good, and it does have unlimited range. You can just have it slowly crawl across the map Another thing I don't like about it is it just reveals to everyone in the game where you're at usually, because they can look at it and kind of determine, oh, there's a warlock in that direction, module or two over. So another little downside. So I think it's a bit situational. I usually don't take it unless I have a certain plan for it. Flamewalker I think is good, but I think it's a little better for PvE. Most players just, it's very obvious. They're not going to walk into it. They'll see it and they'll be like, they can calculate the risk, you know? So they'll be like, I have full health. I can jump in Hellfire for a second to land a shot. It often just feels a little bad to me. I feel like I'm just wasting 6 health casting it. But it's better with Phantomize when you can cast it and then Phantomize and then run through mobs and players and walk them down. So it has its uses, but it's not my favorite spell. I usually don't take it anymore unless I have a plan to clear with it. It's really good for clearing groups of mobs. You know, you got them trailing behind you. You just hit Flamewalker. You can do a lot of damage to them as they chase you. So it's really nice for that sort of thing too. And pretty good for some bosses. What is it? A Lich. If you hit this and then Phantomize and go through all the mobs, that's a great way to kill all the mobs. Things like that. It has its uses, but it's also situational. Eldritch Shield I really like, but it's kind of buggy, unfortunately. And the main bug is that and I haven't confirmed this with the new patch, but they didn't mention anything about it in the patch notes. It consumes your shards, and it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't do damage. And the whole point of shards is to increase your damage. So I don't know why this consumes your shards. It feels like a bug. Maybe it's intended. I don't know, but I don't think this should be consuming your shards, and that's the main reason I don't take it anymore, is just for that reason specifically. I mean, I'm not really talking about arena here. You'd have to kind of make adjustments as needed for arena if you're doing arena. I think Eldritch Shield gets a little better in arena because there's so much magic. Wizards are a problem in arena. Sorcerers can be a problem if they're good. Eldritch Shield is definitely a lot better. You get a little magic damage burst, which is nice. So if you kind of like pair this with the Bolt of Darkness, and you're spamming Bolt of Darkness, like in Arena for example, you can really dish out a lot of damage, which is kind of cool. Too situational, and it consuming your shards is just annoying. So I usually don't end up taking it anymore. And I think if you have anti-magic, you don't really need the shield. If you don't take anti-magic, the shield might feel a little better. So let's talk about building. Default Squire, I kind of like this build. Shadow Mask is fine, I think. I love the Halberd. Of course, you can go Bardiche or Longsword as well. I usually do Halberd or Longsword, depending on how I'm feeling. Usually don't do the Bardiche, but Bardiche is fine too. Occultist Tunic is really good. It's just, you know, it's a Warlock only item, so it's kind of a Warlock specialty. And it has really great stats. 2 strength, about 50 armor. Only 5 movement speed penalty. It's really, really good for only 5 movement speed penalty. It's basically like a heavy Gambison, but you get 6 more move speed. So it's basically like a better heavy Gambison. You know, Gambison has like 5 more armor or whatever, 6 more, something like that, which is about a 1% PDR. But for 6 movement speed less, this is a no-brainer. If you're going melee lock, I think this is the best thing to get. The other option would be something like the Champion Armor. I just think the Occultist Tunic is too good to deny. Mystic Vestments if you want to be a little bit faster, but you only get some will out of it. So if you're going pure Caster Lock, Torture Mastery, Mystic Vestments is probably better because you don't really need strength, but Vigor's still nice. I don't know, I might still take this with Torture Mastery, but 3 will is kind of a lot of damage for a Squire piece. So I really think the only options I ever choose is the Mystic Vestments or the Occultist Tunic. Or if I'm going Plate Lock, then yeah, I might do some heavy plate piece. But Occultist Tunic is undeniably a very, very strong piece. Other helm options I guess we could talk about. Obviously the leather cap's good. Shadow Hood's good, but I always feel like I need the dex. You get a little more armor out of it. You get like about 2% more PDR and a little bit more strength, but you lose dex, agility. I don't know. I actually kind of like Shadow Hood. The magic resist comes in clutch too sometimes. So this is a fine build I think too. And you get a little bit of headshot protection, which can save your life. Probably between those, or if you're going Plate Lock, obviously probably want like a Crusader helm, or you can go something like that if you want, but consider that move speed penalty. Alright, the leg piece, I usually go the Chaucer's just for the 3 knowledge. Kind of gotta get the 3 knowledge from something. for what I'm running with the spells. So it really depends on spells. I like the chassis because they have nice armor. They have about 20 armor, only 3 movement speed penalty. That's more than any of the other pieces, and it gets you that knowledge you need. So a pretty solid starting leggings. If you don't need them, cloth pants are amazing. That 3 dex is some really nice, much needed action speed, and they still have decent armor. The cultist pants, I want to like them, but I just can't. The armor is a bit low. Move speed penalties higher than the other ones at a -4 instead of a -3. And the 3 strength is nice, but if you're already above the strength you need, you already got enough strength from your cultist tunic and your shadow hood, don't really need the cultist pants. So I just think cloth pants or leather chassis are almost always better. Or if you want more move speed, the loose trousers are even better. So there's just doesn't seem to be many situations where cultist pants are actually better than the other ones. So it's also why they sell for super cheap on the market. Great budget piece. If you're running a budget kit, though, you can get really good cultist pants for usually under 100 gold because nobody wears them. So if you just want a great budget piece, that can be a thing. Gloves, leather gloves tend to be pretty good. Get the will for some magic damage and stuff. Armor's a little low on these, but that's fine, you know. Dex is nice. The other option would be like if you need more health and armor, you could go the reinforced. I usually don't do these though because I really want some kind of either action speed or strength on the gloves. These just don't have that unless you upgrade them. You know, some enchantments, magical ones. Riveted gloves I think are great if you need the extra strength. I've been going leather gloves lately for that action speed and a bit of a boost to magic damage, which does help heal off Hydrain too. But I have been known to just often use the riveted gloves instead. Totally fine. Just depends on how you feel about that action speed, I think. But we're gonna switch it to riveted. Boots, I think it's always adventurer boots. If you're going something like the halberd, you just need the action speed. You don't have it from anything else other than potentially the leather gloves. So, yeah, I almost always go adventurer boots. You could get a little more move speed out of some lace turn shoes and still get some action speed. Lightfoots, of course, are great, but I usually don't do these unless I'm going caster, because if people get up in your grill, Lightfoots don't do much. Adventure boots are going to help you get the attacks off, help you get the blocks off. They just feel better in melee, I think, than the Lightfoot, although there's some zoning potential with the Lightfoot that's undeniable, so depends on your playstyle a little bit. I don't think I would ever go heavy boots unless I really need the strength and really want the PDR. Maybe some good enchanted ones with a lot of move speed if I find them in dungeon. Sure, why not? But probably not the squire ones. I think the adventure boots are just too much better. Other boots, dashing boots are actually good now. I think they're better than people realize. They've got a little of agility on them, so there are some pretty fast boots. You know, that's going to equate to about 7.5 move speed on them, and they got a little action speed with the agility too, and decent armor, good magic resist. So dashing boots I think are pretty good now. I think if you're really feeling like you're encountering too many wizards, it wouldn't be a bad idea to switch to these. Get a little more MR on the kit. That could be said for any class. So I don't think people realize the full potential. Buckled boots are whatever. They're fine. They're not much different than the rugged boots, but they have more armor, but a little less health. 3 vigor is going to give you more than 3 health, but they're a little faster. So, but it is another fine option. You could go rugged. You could go buckled if you really want a little more health, a little more armor. But yeah, I think I would stick with adventure, laced, lightfoot, or dashing for the moment. And if you find some good enchanted ones in the dungeon, then that's fine. If you really need knowledge from something else, and could go low boots, but I usually don't. Stitch turn shoes, I usually don't. These turn shoes, unless I find a really good enchanted pair, I usually don't. They have about 5.5 move speed and a little less action speed than adventure boots. I just think they're directly worse than adventure boots, so I never go with those either unless I find a really good enchanted pair in the dungeon or whatever. And oh yeah, I guess I didn't talk about the raw hides. Obviously they're really good if you're a caster and need the knowledge, but otherwise you probably want leather gloves or riveted anyway, or reinforced. So I didn't really talk about the falchion heater. That typically doesn't fit my playstyle. I rarely do falchion heater, although it is undeniably very good. And there's also quarterstaff, which I actually kind of like too, but I don't use it too much. Zwei, if you're feeling the Zwei, is pretty good. Crystal Sword is also decent. Not great for mob clearing though, so I usually don't take it. Magic Staff, you go Magic Staff over Spellbook if you want. Alright, let's move to statting up this thing, up this Warlock. We're going to talk about doing it in maybe like a 124 lobby. If you want to go higher, you want to go in HR, you can just scale it up a little bit. But we're going to build a kit. So let's say we want to go with this build: Dark Reflection, Soul Collector, Shadow Touch, Anti-Magic, Blow Corruption, and the spells we just went over. Let's also go Demon Armor. Let's go Demon Armor let's go Demon Armor over the Anti-Magic. Probably better to do it over the Shadow Touch. We have High Drain anyway. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll go like that. That way we can get some nice pieces. So let's go to the marketplace and let's find. Now you would think you want to search for Warlock, but if you're going Plate Lock, the pieces don't show up. So what you can do is you can go to Type, go to Plate. Up to you what you want to do. But these Barbuda helms, like look at this Barbuda helm. 2 strength, 2 max health, 1 true magical. It's got 5 will. It's got 1.5 action speed, 30 gold. I don't know what this guy's thinking. He's a vendor for 40. So this is just free tendies right here. So we'll buy those. The Barbuda helm is actually quite good for this build. I think its move speed is relatively fair as well at only a -6, and the will helps a lot. So that is like an amazing pickup actually. We just made money. I could literally vendor these for more than I just bought them for. But great stats on these. I think they're both good. We'll go with this one, though. So we're looking to get quite a bit of strength, quite a bit of action speed, and still try to carry a decent move speed without spending a lot. That's the really good thing about Plate Lock, I'd say, is that it's very cheap and quite effective. But let's get back in there. We want a chest piece. I think we're going to stick with a tunic. I don't think you can go wrong with this occultist tunic, even if you're doing plate. The plate's just going to help with the helm and the hands mostly, more than anything. But like this occultist tunic, 110 gold, pretty cheap. It's got health on it, and it's got a bunch of MDR. But that's fine. It's fine. So we've already got 2 pretty good pieces, and we've only spent not much. If you account for how cheap those Barbuda helms were, those were basically both plus 10 gold. So we've only spent 90 gold. It's funny when you buy an item and it's just positive because it vendors for more. So that's interesting. But think of it how you want. That's how I'm going to think of it here. But, you know, we're going budget. We're going to try to stay in the 124. So we might be getting items that are slightly too good at this point. Like we obviously want some rings. And we could do +1 all rings if you have the budget for that. Can't go wrong. Ring and Resolves tend to be really cheap, and they are just perfectly fine for this build. So we just could pick up these 2. But if you don't want those, try to get some action speed on something. You can get some really cheap ones with action speed. Just depends on what you want. Dex rings, action speed, those are going to be a little expensive. Oftentimes I like to look for like 2 physical power on something, but that's probably not going to be better than one of those +1 alls. So you can pick up pretty cheap rings for these 124s is the point here. And if you really don't care and you just want to fill the stats, you can get maybe some agility rings. But really just depends on what you want. I kind of want some strength. I wouldn't mind agility either. If we're going into solos, I'd probably go with agility. And let's see how much these are. 290 with all attributes. Maybe a little out of the range. We're probably going to try to stay under 1,000 gold. So we could find, like, this one's a really good deal here. That 144 or whatever. Let's get it. We're still only at like 200 and some. Low 200s. And we could maybe get another one. Maybe we want a little more physical power here too. This epic one is stupidly cheap. Why not? Yeah. Why is that? What? Someone just underpriced that. It's got true magical. It's got physical power. It's got action speed. It's everything we kind of want. This build's already cooking, and we've barely spent anything. I had this necklace apiece from earlier. It's not great, but maybe we'll just actually no. We'll get something else because I think on the neck piece we wanted all attributes. All attributes is always really cheap to get on the neck, so we could just get that. Like, look at these things. It's crazy. Maybe we want a little more physical power. Still only about 100 gold. Wind lockets are great. Get you some of that armor that is much needed. We could go with a torque. I'm fine with the torque because we didn't take anti-magic, and this basically kind of makes up for that. We even got one with memory capacity if we need that. We do need a little bit of memory somewhere. I think this is perfect for 111 gold with those kind of stats. That's actually pretty wild. Like, it's got all attributes, memory capacity, 2 physical power. And yeah, since we don't have anti-magic, perfect. Great piece. So we're already like cooking up a great kit, and we've barely spent anything. But yeah, we are aiming for the 124s, like I said. So we'll stick with that. Let's find a back piece here. I don't really care what it is too much. Not a Watchman's though. But Watchman's isn't terrible with Blow of Corruption, I don't think, because you can just get it off cooldown quicker, which is, it's not great. But you probably want to fill in whatever stat you need. This Splendid's okay. I like action speed. Physical power tends to be great. Now, technically, we should be getting some more health. This build's a little low on the health, maybe. So here's a 3 health one with MR. Perfect. Let's just grab that. Now, what we want to do here, since that had 4 magic resist, which is kind of a dead roll, it's not great. We could just go here, take one of your blue gems, because you know you got a million. We all do. And just put something else on this, like some true magicals. Perfect. Guess I don't have the gem on this character. Maybe I got a green one. I don't know, but basically you can goldsmith it up a little bit. It does cost a little bit. What's it cost? 50 gold. Yeah, I got it handy. But yeah, we'd probably gem this away. I think armor's fine. I think PDR is fine. Yeah, let's just slap some PDR on that. I could go to my other character and put True Magical, and it technically be better, but it's fine. Yeah, we're not going too crazy. These purple, it's going to be a little pricier to gem those up, so we're not going to worry about it. We'll stick with the magic resist on those, and we just need some legs and gloves, and we are set. So let's find legs. Obviously, there's plate legs. You could go with plate pants in this build. They are a bit slow. If I were doing plate pants, I'd probably do plate pants with 2 agility if possible, just to kind of help make up for that loss. But strength vigor is super nice. A lot of armor, projectile damage reduction, super nice too. But we are going to be a bit slow. But let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything really that's tickling my fancy here, so let's just, for example, look at the occultist leggings, occultist pants, and you can just get crazy stats on these for like basically nothing usually. I guess we're getting in a little higher range here, but like 177 2 agility, max health, magic damage bonus. But these are going to put us over cap. But for 177, that's a lot of stats, and 6 strength. So you can really get some good budget pants. Like if we look for the same thing in cloth pants, for example, way higher. Way higher. But cloth pants would probably be better for us, technically. But let's just, humor me here. We're going to need some agility. Actually, let's just go double armor. So, if you go additional armor and physical damage reduction, you can get double armor here. And if you pair that with like max health, whoa, there's a pair right there. That's just the killer pair. It's probably over, but it's only 200 gold though. It's hard to deny. Wow. Yeah, that's just it's almost got the armor of plate pants, still a little less. And it's got a lot of strength, a lot of health. That 1 knowledge is actually what we need, I think, too. Oh, we got all attributes. No, we're fine. So we're good. And we could gem this, too. We could gem the memory capacity bonus. That's kind of a dead thing there, too. I guess we need... What do we need? Let's check our gear score real quick. We're at 175. Okay, we're just too high. We're over gear score. I guess we're going into HR. We're accidentally building an HR kit. But It's hard not to. The pieces are so cheap. Like it's almost hard to go into 124s with this class because it's like the pieces that are way better are the same price as the ones, you know. You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, screw it. We're going in HR, I guess. Let's get some gloves. And if we're going in HR, we might as well get a decent halberd, a decent spell book as well. And we'll probably get cooked in there, just because, you know, it is what it is. But we'll give it a shot. Okay, gloves. I really like the light gauntlets or the heavy gauntlets. We might as well, since we're already going into this. Light gauntlets. Let's get some action speed. Let's get true physical on them. Might get a little pricey, but I don't know. 235 is still pretty good. Now, Dark Reflection actually works off debuff duration, so it's not a completely dead stat on this build. It's not amazing still, but it's not completely dead. So action speed, true fizz makes these about as expensive as they're going to get. But for example, if we go to like heavy gauntlets instead, it's probably a lot more expensive. Yeah, those are the more popular ones because they have so much action speed on them and health, dex vigor. But light gauntlets, very good. We could also go with like copper light or something, but those are pretty pricey. Like this pair right here is really good. Let's just see what it takes. What happens if we get max health? Like that would be the perfect rolls. But if we just want a 3 max health, there's a 166 pair. It's got MDR, magical power. That's fine enough. True Fizz isn't actually that big of a deal with a hard-hitting weapon like the halberd. So that's fine. That's not too expensive. And the last thing we need, and probably the most expensive piece we're going to get is the boots. Adventure boots tend to be pretty pricey. Especially once you get additional move speed on them. But, you know, 500 gold, that's a good pair right there. It's not bad. 2 will, that's going to help out too. So, not too bad at pairs for like 500. But that's a little over our budget, I'd say. Let's go with move speed bonus. Tends to be a little cheaper. There's a nice pair for 300. There's a decent pair for 155. Yeah, we could just send it on this pair, but I don't love them. Maybe we can find some turn shoes. Nobody likes these turn shoes, so they tend to be pretty cheap. But they're not that much cheaper. That's a good pair right there. They're just very slow boots, really. They're not as fast as you would think, but that's about 5.5 move speed natively with the agility considered, so still slower than the adventure boots, even at epic. But let's just see if we can find a nice cheap pair. That's not bad. It's about 11 move speed with vigor and MDR, 188. Sure. Yeah, let's do it. All right. And I think we've got a full build at this point. Yeah, we've basically got a full build. Do I have a halberd handy? No, I've got some, but those are a little too good for what we're doing here, maybe. And yeah, you can just get your weapon of choice at this point. You don't have to. Let's see. I mean, our gear score is 223, so right here we could go into the capped lobby, the 223. Once we sell all these, it'll go down a tiny bit more. But we could stick with our white weapons here, common weapons. We could take this in to 224s HR and probably really cook some people. But if you're going above, you might as well get a nice halberd. Why not grab a cinder for 40k? Just kidding. But legendaries are still pretty cheap, under 400 for a legendary. Now, what you want to look for on these legendaries, always look at the weapon damage and get one that actually has a high end. Like this one with 66 damage is way better than the 64 one. So we'd get this one if we were going for a legendary, and why not? I can't really turn that down. That's just like, that's going to hit like a truck. And if we want a spell book, we might as well grab one. Doesn't need to be legendary. They're a bit pricey. I don't even really care what it is, honestly. Let's just make sure we get like some damage bonus and maybe magic power. See if we can get a good deal on one of those. Not really. Like this one for 120 is fine, I think. Just something to boost it a little bit. It's not going to be our main thing anyway, so we don't need to go crazy. Yeah, let's go with this 121. We'll budget on that. So, okay, now we've got quite a kit. Let me sell all this other stuff. Alright, let's just look at our stats at this point. 136 health, a little low. So we could probably buff that up a little bit somehow. Like, I'd definitely put some health on this. We could go with a necklace apiece to get it a little higher. 136 is a little low for a melee character, in my opinion. Especially into uncapped. But really, I'm only trying to get the gist of it here. We're not trying to go too crazy. Let's put some health on this, see what happens. We got a 1, dang. Alright, well, it's better than memory capacity. We really don't need the memory capacity. Okay, the 137 health. Not the worst, not the worst. We'll get a little bit more once we get these souls. You know, we'll go up to like 142-ish. And let's just check our other stats. We've got 11.8, about 12 action speed. We're going to get a little more once we get some shards. 303 move speed, pretty good for a melee. So not too bad, you know, pretty average stats, I'd say, for not amazing, but good enough, PDR 30, about 35. Maybe a little lower than I'd like, but it's not too bad. MR is looking real good at 35. So that is nice, and we don't even have the anti-magic, which doesn't show here anyway. But that's fine. Physical power bonus at 13. That's pretty good. Halbert's going to hit like a truck. Basically going to get a nice little 13% boost off that 66. Plus we got 3 more physical power and physical damage bonus. So we got another almost 5. And then armor pen, which you can, for sake of quick calculations, think of armor pen as physical power. That's not technically accurate, but if you're just trying to do a rough calculation, we can say that this has, for rough calculations, another 10 physical power. So we could say we nearly have 23-ish physical power for sake of how much damage we're doing with this bad boy out. So yeah, this halberd is going to like one-shot people potentially, especially with blow of corruption up. Magic power bonus 16, not bad either. So these stats are looking pretty good, and it's a decent enough kit. So yeah, that's what I think about Warlock right now and going melee lock. This is what I personally would run, something around this, and I think I've given enough talk about my other considerations that you can get the point of what else you might change up. We found some very nice, almost free pieces here and there. I think this Barbuda helm is very underrated. I don't know if I talked about it enough, but it's just got kind of everything you want as this kind of Warlock. So especially with how cheap it is. But yeah, if we really wanted to go crazy, we'd probably try to get our health up to 160 at least. Like if you want to go just absolute beefcake, try to get your health to 160. Try to maintain over 300 move speed. Try to get the action speed to around 20. This is all very doable, although you might have to spend a lot. Try to get your PDR to around 50. MR, you probably have to sacrifice some MR if you're doing all that, so it might end up being a bit lower. Physical power, this is fine. Even, I think as long as it's around 10 or so, you're probably good. And this halberd, if your weapon has a lot on it too, then you're definitely good. So we could even go to like 0 physical power to bump up our other stats in turn, and we'd probably be fine because of how this halberd is, the extreme physical damage on it. In magic power, I think 16 is good enough for this kind of build, but you could adjust it a little bit if needed. So yeah, I think that's it. If you guys want to see some gameplay, I might do a second video of playing this kit, but I think this one's long enough just talking about statting it. So look out for that second video. Alright, thanks for watching. enjoy your new Warlocking with these buffs. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.